When the invitation arrived, it looked harmless. A soft pink envelope, a gold sticker, and my sister's handwriting looping across the front. I held it for a long moment before opening it. We hadn't spoken much since my husband passed away 2 years ago, and she had kept her distance through every major milestone of my grief. A sudden invitation to her baby shower felt strangely timed, almost calculated, but I tried to push that thought aside. She was expecting her first child, and I wanted to be supportive. The card inside was simple: a date, a time, and a note saying she had a special announcement planned and wanted her closest people there. That line stayed on my mind, repeating itself like a quiet echo. She never phrased things that dramatically. She also never included me when she planned anything emotional. The more I thought about it, the more unsettled I felt. Still, people around me encouraged me to go. They said it would be good for me to be around family, good to celebrate new life after everything I'd lost. I agreed, hoping this was a step toward reconnecting with my sister, maybe even repairing the small cracks that grief had widened between us. The day of the event felt heavy. I picked out a soft blue dress my husband had always liked and tied my hair back, trying to focus on something positive. The venue was a decorated community hall my sister had rented. Balloons floated along the ceiling. Tables were arranged neatly with pastel gifts and trays of food. At first glance, the atmosphere felt warm, but the second I stepped inside, an odd tension wrapped itself around my shoulders. People greeted me politely, but some of the smiles felt rehearsed. My sister barely made eye contact when she hugged me. She looked nervous, too cheerful, almost jittery, as she moved around the room adjusting decorations that didn't need adjusting. I brushed it off as pregnancy stress. You've followed the journey this far, and the next part is where everything flips on them completely. Please subscribe our channel, please. I gave my gift, found a seat, and tried to blend in. But every few minutes, I caught someone glancing at me. Quickly, secretly, then turning away as if they didn't want to be seen. It wasn't paranoia. These were looks filled with anticipation, pity, and something else I couldn't name. My chest tightened. I remembered the line on the invitation again. A special announcement. When my sister finally called everyone together, an uneasy silence fell across the room. She stood near a decorated board with envelopes pinned across it. Behind her was a slideshow setup, though the screen was still blank. She rested her hands on her belly and took a shaky breath before she started. Her voice trembled slightly as she talked about becoming a mother, about new beginnings, and about wanting her child to grow up knowing their full story. It sounded sweet at first, but her tone shifted as she continued. Something bitter rose beneath her words, something aimed in my direction, though she hadn't looked at me yet. My stomach knotted. People around me shifted, some already bracing for whatever came next. My pulse climbed into my throat. My sister reached for the first envelope on the board, pulled out a card, and began reading. A memory from her past, a detail from her early adulthood, then another, and with each one, a thread of resentment wove itself into her voice. These weren't happy stories. These were grievances, old wounds she'd never mentioned, jealousies I never knew she carried. Then she paused, took a deep breath, and reached for a remote on the table. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered awake, and before I understood what was happening, the first image appeared on the screen. It was my husband, a photo from years ago, smiling, unaware future tragedy would cut his life short. Laughter rippled around the room, not because of anything funny, but because people seemed startled, confused, shocked that his face was part of her presentation at all. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. A cold wave washed over me. My sister finally looked at me, and that's when I knew whatever this announcement was It had something to do with him, with my late husband, and she had planned it publicly, deliberately, in front of everyone I knew. I gripped the edge of my chair, bracing myself. Her next words would shatter the room, and the truth she was about to reveal would cut deeper than anything I'd endured since losing him. The room went quiet when the slideshow shifted. Photos of my late husband filled the screen. Not our memories, but pictures clearly taken without my knowledge. Workplace shots, event photos I'd never seen. It felt invasive, like someone had been tracking him long before he died. People whispered. My sister stepped forward, breathing hard, eyes bright with a strange mix of excitement and bitterness. Then she dropped her secret. She claimed my husband was the father of her baby. A wave of heat rushed through me, followed by a numbness that hollowed me out. I saw heads turn toward me, waiting for a reaction, but I couldn't move. Her story spilled out in dramatic layers, crafted to paint herself as a silent victim carrying a hidden heartbreak. The room absorbed every word, unsure whether to believe her or pity me. Then she held up a paper, a DNA test. At first glance it looked official, but small details jumped out. Mismatched formatting, wrong dates, sloppy alignment. It felt like something printed in a hurry. People shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Some glanced at me with sympathy. Others stared at the floor, stunned by the chaos unfolding in what was supposed to be a celebration. I wasn't shocked by grief anymore. I was stunned by how organized this ambush was. She had planned every second. The guests, the timing, the story, the theatrics. This wasn't about truth. It was about stealing attention, rewriting the past, and dragging my husband's name through mud because she couldn't stand living in my shadow. As she continued spinning her tale, something inside me steadied. Her story didn't match timelines, his travel, his medical records, or even the date she claimed this relationship began. And she didn't know that I held a piece of information that would destroy her entire performance. When I finally stood up, the room froze. Everyone knew this moment would decide whose story survived the night. I walked to the front without rushing, letting the silence stretch. My sister folded her arms like she'd already won. I pulled a small envelope from my bag, the one thing she never expected me to have. Inside were my husband's medical reports from the final year of his life. They clearly stated he was infertile, permanently, irreversibly. There was no possible way he could be the father of anyone's child. The room reacted first, gasps shifting chairs, murmurs spreading like fire. My sister's confidence cracked instantly. Her face drained, her fingers squeezing that fake test like it could suddenly become real. I explained the timeline, his diagnosis, how he'd shared everything with me, how her dates didn't line up, how her paperwork didn't match any certified format. Every word tightened the noose around her story. Someone in the crowd asked her directly if she forged the documents. She stuttered, then tried to blame stress, confusion, anything except the truth. But the room had already decided. She'd use my husband's death to stir drama and pull pity. And now she was exposed. I walked out without raising my voice, without looking back. She created the spectacle. I ended it. The damage wasn't mine to carry anymore. It was hers entirely.